The C word?
Stop.
The C word.
I literally said don't swear, and then you said it directly as we started the broadcast. Now I have to go and specifically edit this as soon as it launches. Otherwise, we're gonna. You little shit. Right. Would you like to
That was swearing. That's a swear word.
swearing's fine. I'm just trying to avoid using that word.
Is the C word that's off the table?
Yeah, that's just.
Is it all genitalia profanity? Like, can we say dick?
No, it's only in America. It's a really weird one. But let's not get on with this. If this was a British podcast for British people, then we could use the C word.
Can we say bloody?
In America, people get super snarky about that shit. So.
Can I say bloody? Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. Bloody hell. Let's do it.
Gosh darn, this is a terribly unprofessional start to a podcast.
We're 30 minutes late drinking beer when it starts. I mean, I think people know what they're in for.
This is true. I like people to forget momentarily that it's going to be a shit show before they hit with the realization that it's an absolute train wreck.
They're like 20 minutes in, they're like, oh, it's a shit show, but I'm kind of committed, so I'm going to keep watching.
Well, and also, luckily, no one actually watches this, and we haven't tweeted any links to anything.
We have not tweeted the link yet.
I think
so
we
should do that.
safe. I don't know why we started the broadcast.
How do I even find the link?
It doesn't matter.
We need to tweet the link. Come on, man.
No one needs to watch this. But I'm going to DM you both the link.
Is this the join link, or is this the...
No. So I'm going to DM you a brand new link right now, Ben. There.
I found it myself. I didn't
trust. I don't know why you have to be a prick about it.
Wait, this is... What link is
okay.
This?
Amir, I have sent out a link to your DM. Share that link. Okay, so I'm going to be taking notes throughout. Amir, if you could also take some notes of any sort of links or websites you talk about so that I can put those links in the show notes, that would be really helpful.
Okay, I will send you.
Everyone, I'm good to go? Oh, the other thing, Amir, if we're talking and you would like to kind of interject or you'd like to be next, put your hand up and we can try and wrap up our point or finish it so that you can jump in there. Okay?
Okay. I sent a direct message to you.
Sorry?
I sent a direct message to you on Twitter.
Okay. Yay! Cool. Yeah, I've got those two. But if you think of any more whilst we're talking, so like if you mention something, like you mention a book, and then you can give me a link to the book, right?
Okay.
Ben, do you wanna?
Yeah.
Start this
What
off?
episode number is this? Do you have any idea?
43.
Are you sure? I don't trust you.
Yes, it's 43. It's the only thing I got right about this whole situation.
Phil, you were come Istanbul last year.
Yes.
What's your thoughts? Is it a good place?
Yeah, man, it's great fun. We'll talk about that on the show. I like to brag about traveling, so that'll be fun for me. So we're going to have to do a quick introduction, and then we'll edit all of this. So then we'll do the intro and get started and say hello to each other and introduce ourselves, okay? Cool, Ben, take it away.
Me first?
Ben? Yeah, Ben, your sound doesn't work.
Yeah.
For the love of Christ. Yeah, we've lost Ben. Oh, that was noisy. Sorry about this. We're usually better at getting started. We're 35 minutes late. This is terrible.
No deadline. We are relaxed, right?
Here we go. Ben, you got sound. Ah. Ben.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes? You can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Woo. All right, episode 43, right?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to clap. I'm going to do the intro. Gives us a nice edit point. All right. Hello, welcome to episode 43 of the PHP Town Hall. We are here tonight with myself, Ben Edmonds, along with Philip Sturgeon and Emir. We're going to discuss a little bit about a Turkish PHP conference that's coming up and get to know Emir a little more. So Emir, take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Emir from Turkey, Istanbul. I'm user group leader in Istanbul PHP group, and we organizing a Istanbul PHP conference this year, 25, 26 of July. Ben,
Yeah. Ben, you forgot to introduce him properly. You actually didn't pronounce his surname. So would you like to have a go at that?
So the reason I didn't do that is because I had no idea how to do that. And you know that because you're a dick. Could you pronounce your surname, please?
Emir is okay. It's hard. I know it's hard.
See, he said it, and I still don't understand it, so it's all the same.
Yeah, that's probably shouldn't have brought that up. It seemed funny, and now it sounds like I'm being a dick. So moving on. So Emir, you're doing Istanbul conference. Is this the first one for Istanbul PHP, or have you done before?
Second one, but the first one is locally, and all of the Turkish developers, all of the guests are Turkish developers, and all of the talks are Turkish. But this year we decided to invite some community members, and I think it will be great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So who do you have coming this year?
Cole Evans, Jordi Boggiano, David Shafik, Pierre Joy, and Frank DeYoung. Also, Michael Wink comes from America and Europe.
Did you say Davey Shafiq?
Yeah.
I'm really sorry to hear that.
For what?
I don't know. We you know how a lot of podcasts have friends of the show? Davey's kind of the enemy of the show. We hate Davey a lot.
Yeah, there's no particular reason for it, and I don't know how or why it started, but he's only ever once got onto the show because he snuck in while we were doing a Google Hangout episode. We were all together in person, and he was just on someone's computer, so we could hear his voice, but he wasn't invited on the show. But that's a nice bit of a tangent. Do you have any more speakers lined up, or are there more people you're waiting to hear back from?
Sorry?
Are there other speakers that you're hoping to hear back from, or is the lineup done?
Lineup is not done. All four papers are open. Tomorrow is the entry for all four papers, proposal submissions. But I think we spent all of the money currently other speakers, and we have no money right now. So I think it's the guest star. Okay.
All right. So you're out of money. You're going to try for some local speakers then?
Yes, we have local speakers.
Okay, good. So Istanbul's an interesting location, I guess. I haven't heard much from the PHP community there. Do you have a large community there?
Sorry? I can't hear you.
Do you have a large PHP community in Istanbul? Local community?
Yeah. We have local community in Istanbul PHP user group.
Yeah, so I guess you do the Istanbul meetup as well, right? So how many PHP developers do you have at the local meetup, and what's the format?
Monthly, I think 70 people join us, and exactly monthly, our meetups are look like a conference. We have four or more sessions for popular talks, not only PHP and it's about related technologies, DevOps things or sysadmin things. These are great, and I think we will host all of you.
That's impressive. You said 70 to 80 people. That's a really feckin' big user group.
Yeah,
They're
because
usually like 20, you know.
yeah, but because Istanbul PHP is most widespread language in Istanbul, and most firms are or startups are uses PHP for building web applications. It's widespread in Turkey. It's normal.
Very cool. Okay. How long have you been doing the meetup?
Sorry, man, I can't hear you.
How long have you been doing the meetup?
How?
How long have you been doing the meetup?
I think 8 years. We this month we organizing 8-1. About eight months it's going.
All right, cool. And this is the first year for the conference?
Nah, second year. We did that already.
Second year? I'm having a lot of trouble hearing. They decided to clean my office right in the middle of the podcast, which is really nice of them.
That's a dick move. We're both in our office, which is nice. It's a nice change of scenery. I've actually got lighting in here for once, which is probably unfortunate because now you can see my face in more detail. But at least I'm the only person in the office, and I'm not stuck with vacuum cleaners.
Right. Yeah. So yeah. All right. I think they're done. So hopefully quality improves.
Excellent. That's pretty cool. We've talked about the Istanbul PHP meetup, which sounds like it's pretty big and impressive. 4 sessions is a lot, and 80 people is huge. It's in Atlanta PHP, and it's a great place, big city, and they had like 20 or something. So that is very cool. And we've got the conference coming up. When is the conference again? It's October 26th.
25, 26th of July.
Of June.
July.
July. Okay, cool. 25th and 26th of July. That's fairly soon then. So if you're listening to our podcast on iTunes or via the RSS feed, then it's probably already happened. It's probably too late. We generally take so long getting our episodes out that people just miss the conference. Remember that time that we had?
I don't know. We might make that. It's possible.
I mean, where's episode 42 at the moment?
It happened once.
Yeah, Jess, bless her, Jess D'Amico, was trying to get us to talk about PeersConf, and by the time we got the audio out, I think it was about a day after PeersConf.
Yeah, it was right after. It was pretty horrible, actually.
We're tweeting about it during their closing keynote. But anywho, this is a professional gig, and we're going to start trying to do a little bit better. So that's good times.
That's 42 episodes later, we get our shit together.
One of these days, I'll buy a microphone. That will really help.
Oh, look at this shit. Yeah, you should get on this.
Whoa, I want that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So there are a few other things we're going to talk about, and we can come. We can come back to the conference because there's a few other things to talk about. But let's have an interjection with some personal stuff. Ben, did you have anything you're going to say, or do we just get to talk about me for a while?
Well, as you know, you are your favorite subject.
It's true. I do like it.
First, right? I guess first off, we just did a few conferences together and separately, mostly together.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
We did Lone Star and Open West. I think we're done for a little while though, right? Do you have any more conferences scheduled? Yeah,
so only the 3. I've got the Seattle thing, which is announced.
That's in September. That's Pacific Northwest PHP.
Yes.
For those that are interested. It's going to be a great time. It's a very well organized conference. I was actually on the board. but I stepped down when I moved away from Seattle, which we'll get to in a minute.
Of course.
There we go.
Everyone's moving right now. Cal Evans is getting out of Nashville, and other people are. Everyone seems to be moving in the community.
Yeah.
It's all
Do you
this, all this
move?
climate change. Everyone's running away from something.
Not to get political.
Phil,
Sorry,
do you
Evan.
move America right?
Sorry.
Do you move America right?
Yeah, I've moved to America. I live here now. When we were hanging out, Amir, in Istanbul, I was kicked out of the country, and that's why I was there. My visa had expired in America, and I had nothing to do with my time or my life, and I had no job. So after a conference in South Africa, hanging out with Rasmus on a safari, I decided to come to Turkey. My plan was that I was going to, from Turkey, take the train back to England and then stay there for a while. But then I managed to wash my fucking passport the evening before I got on the plane to South Africa. So I had to, when I got to Turkey, I had to just go straight home because I had an emergency passport. It was a great story. But I would have to go
I'm fucking riveted right now.
I thought it was pretty funny that I washed my passport. I thought people wouldn't like that joke, but yeah, no, it'd be great to come back at some point. That's not me being booted out of America. But I've moved to New York. I live here now. Ben has also moved to New York. So Ben, do you wanna do a little bit about that?
I moved to New York officially last week. I'm a New Yorker now. Yeah, that happened. So Phil and I are actually both in Manhattan in separate
Yeah.
offices because we had this rule against seeing each other while we're both in New York.
Yeah, I try to avoid
everywhere
it
else.
whenever possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
but,
that time I
yeah.
stayed in my apartment for like a week, and I just went, "Fuck it, I'm going to Atlanta." I know.
I'm pretty sure I've been at your apartment for like 3 weeks and saw you once out of those 3 weeks.
Have you started to realize why that might be?
No, I have no idea. I'm amazing to be around. Everyone loves me.
Moving on. So how is the trip? How is the move to New York?
No, it's good. So I tried something new this time. I moved a lot traditionally. Every like 6 to 12 months for the past several years I've been moving. And usually I do like either the whole U-Haul truck thing or I do the pod where you get like, this big metal box delivered and you fill it up and then they ship it.
Hmm.
This time I tried just selling everything and shipping a few boxes, and it worked out pretty well. So I shipped like 5 boxes and got on a plane. So yeah,
There you go.
yeah, it's nice.
It was pretty easy. That's what I did. I sold everything and then finally got a new apartment and then didn't have anything and couldn't afford anything because after I sold everything, I used it to buy alcohol.
Surprise, surprise.
Now I've got a house plant. I've got a turtle. I've got all sorts of things. It's a real place. I'm going to paint my walls soon.
How is Stouffer doing, by the way?
He's doing well. He's doing well. I tried cleaning him off with a toothbrush the other day because apparently they like that. And he started making the freakiest of noises.
And was it like, was he enjoying it too much kind of noise?
I have seen videos of them while they're busy like that. They kind of go like that. It's weird. I have seen videos and heard the noise, and it wasn't that. So I don't think he was too happy. I think he was just pretty content. You know, he was having a go. I'm sure Amir is super excited about this conversation.
I'm glad we could discuss turtle sex finally on the PHP Town Hall.
Yeah, if we could work out how to do that whole playing a video during the podcast thing, then I would definitely get a video up because it's gross and awesome.
That's what show notes are for. Right?
Yeah, true. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yes. Check the show notes, people.
Istanbul PHP, the meetup group, and then here's 2 turtles having a laugh.
Right.
That's awesome.
So if anyone would like to sponsor this podcast, it's $500,000. Right after the turtle sex, that's your sponsor spot.
If you go for the gold package, we'll try and avoid using the C word or talking about turtles during the advert. But apart from
We
that,
at least won't intro the podcast with the C
Right.
word.
so moving on. We talked a little bit last week about how I'd kind of like stepped back from
Yeah,
the
so
stuff.
we got a lot of questions from this, even though we covered it a little bit last time.
Yeah.
A lot of people are worried that the Philip Sturgeon, I now call you Ilya Sturgeon because you're less of PHP, Illy Sturgeon is staying on with the podcast, right? So, but you're stepping
Yeah.
back a little bit from the PHP. Tell us a little bit about this.
Pretty much. So I talked about the kind of stepping back and the losing the will to fight various fights for something I'm not involved with. I came up with a good way of describing it the other day, which was I feel like with PyroCMS, I really set up a home in PHP, and I lived there, and I couldn't move. I was in PHP, and I wanted to get involved with that. And it was like getting involved with a neighborhood watch, right? So you move into a nice area, a nice town, and you want to like make it nice and keep things good. But then I moved away, and there's no point being involved with the neighborhood watch when you don't even live there anymore, right? So that's pretty much all that happened. Is like I'm not doing these things anymore. I have an actual day job. I don't need to maintain this random shit for an income because I have a job now, and that takes up a lot of my time. So I quit all the things that I could reasonably quit, but PHP Town Hall, it's like once every 2 weeks me and Ben get drunk and talk to awesome people, so it's not really that much of a hardship.
So to be clear, we get drunk a lot more often. We just don't talk to awesome people most of the time.
No, it's usually just like me and you and like Zach or something, I don't know, but hopefully he doesn't listen to that. We can do it more often. We can do it more often. If we can work out like the actual getting a decent microphone to do it in person, we can just go and like steal random developers and then like talk to them in a bar, and that will be much better. But no, basically the podcast, I'm not leaving it just yet because it's a lot of fun when we actually do it in a very professional way, which happens like sometimes. But,
once every 10 episodes. It's
once
pretty
every 10 episodes we nail it, and then the rest of them are just like we forgot how to do podcasts. But the format is going to change a little bit. So before, the podcast was pretty much me telling you what's going on in the PHP community, or like us broadcasting kind of news and getting guests on to help spread that news. Whereas now it's going to be me asking what's happening in the community and then probably being an ass about the lack of progress. But
So you're saying less Phil Sturgeon?
It's going to be more of me. Well, I was going to say, be more of me asking questions than telling you answers, right? So it's still going to be a shitload of me talking way too fast and in a weird accent. So that's not gone. Don't worry, people. That's going to stay. But I just don't know what I'm talking about even more than I used to.
This sounds like what we needed to move to the next level.
Absolutely. So Amir, do you have any news from the PHP world for me? Have you been on Reddit? Have you seen any fun articles that I might need to know about?
Yeah, about PSR7.
Oh, what's going on there?
I think you said something.
Are you currently loading Reddit in your browser to see what the news of the day is?
Yeah.
Reddit's actually banned from my host file, and it has been for about a month, so I can't look at it right now.
Well, that's a good move. You have that problem where you have to be right.
No, the problem is that I usually am right, otherwise I wouldn't be involved in the conversation. And people are
The
saying,
problem was that you're a white male in tech.
yes, I do hate white men. I'm a self-hating white man.
Right. No, I just meant because you just said you're right all the time.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. That is true. Us white men are usually right a lot. Apart from all the other white men that are consistently wrong. And that's fun.
Phil, I got something.
What's that?
When we start promoting PHP.com, some women in PHP community said our speakers are all of speakers are men. There is no woman, and it's like sexist.
Yep. That's a tough one.
So, what have you done to combat that with your conference? Have you reached out to any organizations? Do you know any women in the local community? What are you doing to...
There is no woman in the local community, but some months university student comes up meetups, but there is no woman for speaking. All papers are open. There is no woman standing proposal. And I search with Polygon's helping. I search PHP women in Europe. I couldn't find any woman for coming to Istanbul. They don't accept it because of dates or personal reasons. I couldn't find, but luckily in the women user group in Turkey comes accept becoming a PHP clone. We have 2 women right now, and we are more than happy.
So you still have some spots open. Are there any women in your local community you can invite? And are you going to try to do that?
Sorry.
Ben, he already mentioned that he's had a hard time or
yeah, I know.
impossible to find
I'm
them in the
saying
local
he's
community.
having a hard time finding, but maybe you could invite specifically. So instead of just throwing out a call for papers, maybe you target specific women in your community and say, hey, we'd like you to submit, not necessarily, hey, it's a guaranteed entry, but we'd like you to throw your name in the hat, kind of thing.
I pushed on LinkedIn. I sending a private email, but there is no woman accepted.
That's tough. Have you tried a kind of a recruiting a few of your friends to help sort of thing? Like, have you gone around asking if they know anyone that might be interested? Because one of the problems is one of the fundamental problems with people's understanding of like equality and fairness and sexism in tech is that they believe there just aren't that many women in tech. There's just like hardly any. Like we have about 20% employed in the US, and people think there's even less than that. They're like, there's only like I only know 3 female developers. So because you often don't meet them at conferences because they're very rarely speaking and they're very rarely invited to speak, it's a self-perpetuating problem where you don't see them, so you don't know them, so that you can't invite them and you can't fix it, right? So you do need to try a little bit harder to find them, and I never really know how to do that. One solution is Callback Women. Have you seen Callback Women on Twitter?
Nope.
They always look for call for papers for conferences, and they'll tweet things out. So if you were to try and tweet at Callback Women, then they would retweet your call for papers link. But apart from that, you kind of have to just ask other people to try and find people for you, right? Because often, just because you don't know them directly, there's probably a few people that have a lot of really interesting things to say that work with someone that you do know. So you might know a guy that works with a really talented woman who could be asked to at least contribute her name into the call for papers, right?
I think so. I will do it. I will do it.
Other than that, I have no idea. Like, it's always. Do you speak to many other conference organizers? People like Cal Evans would be happy. I heard him mentioning on his podcast he's always happy to help out other conference organizers. So if you were to give Cal Evans a shout on how you could try and rebalance the diversity, then that would be one approach.
I talked with Michelle Sandler from PHP community.
Yeah, she's from she's the lead of PHP Women, right? Michelle.
Yeah. But I asked personally, do you coming? I asked personally talk with Michelle Summer. But I will talk again Michelle Summer and Collins. Those currently 2 women, and it's already looking like sexist, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one. One thing as well is that people are always going to scream. When you run conferences, there's always people that scream. The most important thing is don't engage them publicly, because that's brought down a few conferences in the past. Also, PHP New Zealand has the same problem. Like, I think there's 2 women on the lineup, and that sucks. It's a big problem. Whenever you try and talk about it, I've seen a lot of conferences try and discuss it and be like, no, we've tried this, we've tried various different things to solve the situation. But they'll always say that you didn't try hard enough. And yeah, you just got to avoid doing that publicly, because you'll get screamed at. Do you have a board of directors for the conference? Do you have a board of organizers? Is it just you handling it, or are there multiple people handling?
Yeah, I have two friends also. They help me a lot.
hmm
Currently two people in the crew.
Are they both guys as well, by any chance?
Sorry?
Are they both guys as well?
But, so, I don't know.
The two helping you are guys, right?
Yeah, yeah. Two
Okay.
guys helps me a lot.
So the suggestion that I've heard from people is that you know, if you're trying to be inclusive, then it helps to be inclusive from the very top levels of the organization. So if you can try and make a slightly more diverse organizational crew, then it would be slightly easier to have a more diverse speaker lineup. But that's a tough one too.
Yeah, so if anyone listening is in the local area or will be in the local area during the time of the conference, it would be great for you to reach out, maybe submit to the call for papers, or if you know someone that would be a good fit, get them to reach out. There's still a couple of speaker spots open, and they would greatly like to improve their diversity. So if you could help with that, that would be great. And we will push to get this episode out quickly.
Absolutely.
So maybe it'll get at least on the ears of people that can help. Yeah.
Ben, while we're on this bit of a topic, actually, I'd like to ask your thoughts on it, because it's something that comes up quite a lot. And it's whenever you see a conference, it's always conferences, there's never anything else, but whenever you have a conference situation and there's a bunch of white dudes speaking, or just for simplification, a bunch of dudes speaking, and then anyone shows any vague sign of giving a shit about maybe it shouldn't just be all dudes, the response to that is always that you're trying to quota fill, right? And this whole idea of people shouting at anyone that tries to find people that aren't just guys, and
so in my experience, the big issue here, the big kind of difference in opinion, is that reaching out for people, women, people of color, any minority, to submit to a call for papers is very different than kind of the blanket statement of we will accept all women or we will accept all non-white guys, right?
Yeah.
So it's the big difference between like promoting diversity and trying to encourage that versus discriminating, basically.
Absolutely. It's where like people basically start to complain about positive discrimination, and I've been part of these conversations in the past, like a long time ago, and I've luckily managed to flip my brain around after being in New York and not in some small shit middle of nowhere town. But when people generally start to cry that's positive discrimination, what they mean is, I'm a guy, you've asked for women to apply, that means that you're going to pick women over me even though my talk might be better. And that's obviously all horseshit. The main thing is, positive discrimination for a start isn't really a thing when it comes to this stuff. I saw a great tweet basically saying, whenever you think you're seeing positive discrimination, you're seeing an unfair system rebalancing itself, right? So if just because it's coming back into equality, then that's not a bad thing.
Well, it's almost a fun one though, because I've seen the point advocated for both men and women. It's there is a difference between saying I will pick the best speakers, the best people that submitted to the proposal, and saying I want a 50-50 lineup. And the main difference to that is not that men and women are differently qualified, it's that there's an imbalance in the submissions. So getting more women to submit helps equalize that imbalance, which in turn will make a more balanced set of speakers. And it's not that you're choosing either one based on their qualities any differently. You could have a blind process and end up with just as many if your proposals were even out.
Yeah, it's very true. There's a few bits to it. One of them is that that it is never quota filling, right? The quota filling thing I think is so fucking offensive. Just because you're like, well, we don't want to get shouted at, and we've got a bunch of guys, so we better go and find any old fucking woman that'll show her face, right? Because that is wildly offensive that you think that people would do that in the first place, and it's also used as like an insult to like, oh, a woman managed to get in. I guess they care about diversity. It's so offensive, and it really pisses me off. So again, caring about having a diverse representation at a conference is not a bad thing. Trying to find people that are that represent a diverse range of people, it interests everyone. It means that you get diverse conversations, diverse topics. It's more likely to attract a diverse community, and it generally is a wonderful thing that has no downsides. The only problem is, I think, is the base thought that a lot of people have is, well, of course the speaker lineups and the attendance ratings are mostly white dudes because it's pretty much all just white dudes in tech. But I started to realize that this is, it's not that true at all. When you go to conferences and when you go around, I've traveled all over the fucking place and I've been to meetups and conferences and everything else. Most of the people there are white dudes. I'm talking like 95% of those people, like 98% of those people are white dudes. And it really does seem that way. So once you start traveling around and you see that, you start to think, well, of course all the conference speakers are white dudes because it's just white dudes. But really, because of the system where most conferences have had a shitload of white dudes for a really long time, people that aren't that don't apply as much, or they don't care, or they feel like they won't be included, or they just feel like they can't be fucked. Or sometimes you do have an occasional, slightly racist organizer or sexist organizer who doesn't pick those people. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because they aren't being picked, they don't apply, and because it's mostly dudes, they don't put their name in the hat as often. Therefore, you only ever meet and hear from dudes, and therefore it just keeps going like that. So trying to go a little bit beyond, even if you have 20 amazing talks submitted to you, and it's all a bunch of guys, there's this very, very fine line between, I want to quota fill, you were just reading your iPad. There's a very fine line between, I want to quota fill, and I would actually rather give a more diverse range than this fake diversity we have, which is just white dudes, right? So there's this fine line between, okay, these talks were all really fucking good. These are the best 20 talks that we had. And, well, okay, but these are the best 20 talks, but these talks are actually still pretty good. And it would be good to not just have a bunch of white dudes, because that causes so many more problems with feminism and sexism in the community and perpetuates this problem which has been going on for fucking years. So whilst I feel like you should pick the best talks possible, you definitely don't want to pick a shit talk just because they're a woman. But you should be able to pick some pretty good talks from people that aren't white dudes. And especially seeing as most of these talks are the same fucking people over, like me, at every conference you go to. Because so many of them, they're the same people over and over again, maybe you can skip a few of the big names of the classic white dudes that are at all the conferences, and you can pick some other talks from some people that aren't white dudes.
So I slightly disagree here. I don't think you should judge the quality of the talks you pick as a conference organizer, but I do feel like we should. So even if you have like a blind submission process and you don't see any identifiable information about the people that submitted, there's a regular amount of conference speakers, basically like a circle jerk in tech, of people that always give talks, and the talks they give, and you can tell who they are just by their abstracts. An abstract is like a description of the talk, for those who don't know. So, I mean, you and I both travel in the same circle. You and I both talk at the same conferences, getting the same damn talk all the time, basically. So we're a part of the problem here, for sure. We both get the same API talk with just slightly different jokes and slightly different levels of accent.
And mine's better.
You're not conceited, right? Yeah, you're just drunker, usually. So anyway, the problem there, though, is that there's this small group that just keeps getting talks over and over. So it's not necessarily about the best talk. So maybe Phil's API talk is better than some new speaker's API talk. But if you don't ever give that new speaker a chance, people are just going to hear Phil over and over and over. And who wants to hear that accent more than once, right?
Sounds awful.
You have to give the new speakers a chance, regardless of male or female. We can't just continue this little small community circle jerk thing of the same organizer or the same speakers chosen by the same organizers year over year. You have to branch out a bit.
They're two kind of similar but also separate problems. Is that one of them is I'm trying to point out the wiggle room there in between kind of like quota filling and just like throwing some women in there for the fucking sake of it, and trying to go a little bit further beyond the obvious immediate options which everyone's heard of that are just mostly white dudes because that's how it works. And the other thing is very related to that, which is if you have the same people all the time, then that's not very fucking helpful for the community. And it's an obvious problem for conference organizers. When you're organizing a conference, you need the most bang for your buck. The plane ticket costs as much to get them from, if there's two people coming from New York and one of them's a relatively unexperienced new speaker and the other one's Fabian or someone huge, then obviously you want to get the best bang for your buck. Beyond just travel and everything else, the more big names you get, the more attendees you have, and the more money you can spend. But you also need to kind of quota that off and say, okay, we're gonna have this call for papers. We're gonna let all these people submit, and we know the same bloody career conference speakers are going to submit, whether we like it or not. They're going to submit. We should also go and find some people. And we know for a fact that conference organizers do this. No conference is 100% call for papers. I get invites all the time from people saying, oh, we'd love for you to speak at conference X because we think that you'd really make an impact. So why can't other people do that for people that aren't just a bunch of white dudes, right? So if you know of talented women in tech who are doing a great fucking job, go and ask them before the call for speakers. A lot of people just say, well, there weren't that many people that put their name into the thing. I don't put my name into many call for papers. I don't notice them half the time. Usually people say, do you want to come speak at this conference? And I go, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome. So if conference organizers are going out and actually proactively trying to find good people, and if they don't know good people, I feel like you need to spend more time trying to find good people. Kayla Daniels is actually a really great person to follow, mostly because she retweets and talks to a lot of other really awesome, interesting people. So I've followed a lot of people from that, and I feel like if I was to organize a conference, I'd now have a fairly good start on people to start trying to talk to, right? So yeah, the blind review process doesn't work. The blind review process should be, give us your abstracts, and then we'll get you through to the next level, but you can't ever have it just completely blind. That would be madness. But you can combine call for papers with going out and approaching people that you know, and if you don't know people, try really hard to know some people. I tried a thing for a while, which was on Twitter, which was only retweet women, and it makes you pay attention to these things so much more. It sounds really silly, but it makes you focus a lot more. Otherwise, it's just me and the same 50, again, mostly white dudes, just retweeting each other over and over again, and we're so funny. But you expand your circles a little bit more, and you realize there are a shitload more people out there that don't look and sound just like you.
I did a kind of similar thing. I tried to get the people I follow on Twitter to a 50-50 average of male versus female, just based on names and pictures, which is not accurate, but it's closest I could try, right? I think I got to about 40% female, and it's hard when your network is mostly white guys to actually find that many women to follow that are in the same circles without going outside your tech circle. But I found it really interesting, and it helped my perspective a lot to see all this interaction between people that like passed the vegetable test and wasn't just this little echo chamber. You know, it was really nice. And I recommend that to anyone. You shouldn't follow just people like yourself, people that agree with you. You should really try to branch out there.
Yeah. In addition, the thing is, when you're organizing a conference outside of America, or when you're organizing a conference outside of America, you have limited money. The dollar is too expensive in here, and you have limited budget. You want to host great speakers, like you always choose rock stars, or
Yeah.
you have limited budget and you want to.
You want the most bang for your buck, right? You want the most money. You want the most result from the money you spend, right? But this actually reminds me of something I wanted to ask you, which was one thing the internet often does is, hang on, so Ben, I think you've got a bit of sound there. There you go. One problem with the internet is that everyone pretends that it's all America. whenever you have, or at least Americans do, when you have an American looking at a conference abroad, they act like that abroad conference is in America. They assume everything's going to be the same. It's all going to be the same, and they forget that different countries have societal differences. So one thing I would ask: do you know the information? Do you know the statistics on on the gender differences in how many people are employed, how many women are employed in Turkey? Like, is it much lower, or is it the same problem they have in America, where they're just not necessarily as forthcoming submitting their own talks?
Yeah, I agree with you. Where is Ben? Ben is gone.
Sorry, yeah, Ben's gone. He'll be back in a second. So, more simply, in Turkey, do you feel like there is a much much smaller percentage of female developers than in countries like America, or do you think you have the same problem that America and England and a lot of Europe does, where they're just not as forthcoming, that they don't submit as often? Which would you say is more the likely problem?
Both of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say, because Turkey's a kind of an interesting place, because it's got a very kind of a Muslim history, and they're very forthcoming. So the president recently, or a few years ago, made it like they're not forced to wear burqas and shit. They can wear whatever the hell they want, right? So it's quite a cool place. It's got a lot of the old history and a lot of the new. But I am wondering if, because of its history, it's a bit more kind of classic gender roles, right? So they're struggling with words. Do women go into more kind of historically feminine jobs there, or what's the difference in Turkey?
Yeah, they choose maybe.
Sorry?
Okay.
Yeah. Everything okay?
Yeah, everything okay.
Okay. Did my question not make sense?
Yeah. Can you say again?
Okay. I was going to say, do you think that Turkey, because of its history of having kind of, it used to be relatively oppressive towards women. They'd be forced to wear burqas and all that sort of shit, and that's being fixed up now. That's changing and improving. Do you think because of its history and the culture, there are fewer women that actually do work in tech, or do you think that has any effect on it?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
It's the hard question to answer for me.
Absolutely, fair enough. Just wondered if you had any insight. So in July 25th and 26th, you have the conference coming up. If people were to travel to Istanbul for this conference, what would you recommend they do? What's fun to do in Istanbul around July 25th, 26th? It's going to be beautiful weather, right?
Yeah. It's sunny weather, and it's wonderful in summer, Istanbul. So
there's a lot of fun things to see. It's a beautiful place. I went there. I went on a boat. They do tours of the harbor. I took a rental bike around to the Asian side. I actually went down to Groim, which was a pretty cool thing. They have that national park, and it was incredibly close to Iraq by the time I got down there, which was terrifying. I was like a 24-hour drive from Baghdad, I think. So that wasn't great. And I was on a bus where no one spoke a word of English. I was just riding that bus for 12 hours. It was fucking terrifying. At one point, I got so hot, I took off my shoes, and someone started screaming at me because I'd taken off my shoes and like exposed my foot to their wife. Like, really, really pissed off. Like, I'm so sorry. I'll put my socks back on. It was just really hot. I'm sorry. But it is a really fun place. Like, everyone in Istanbul, most people in the city of Istanbul, they speak pretty good English. Like, I didn't know anything, and I was fine for like 2 weeks. So if anyone's listening and they're interested, you should definitely go to PHP Istanbul. They've got a great lineup. Who was the lineup again? You've got Jordi
Buggiano, yeah.
Buggiano, I can't remember his surname. Said it many times. Jordan, David Shafik, a bunch of other people. Hopefully, a few not white dudes coming up soon.
Collins, Pierre Joy, and Frank Young.
Frank who?
Frank Young from PHP League.
Ah, excellent. Yeah, Frank Dejange.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Is he doing a talk about fly system, or what's he doing?
Yeah, I think he something topic. Growing care file system is his talk subject.
Nice.
I think he mentioned about fly system.
Sorry, I got some funny tweets. People are making fun of me on the internet, which is new and interesting. Sorry, people making fun of me saying that I went on a safari with Rasmus, but I actually did. That wasn't. It was really cool. So PHP South Africa, they had two conferences. They had one in Johannesburg and one in Cape Town, and then in between that, we went to this national park near I forgot on the name of the place, near Nelson, somewhere that begins with an N. And yeah, they had safaris and swimming pools, and it was real nice. Saw an elephant. They saw a tiger eating a deer in a tree or some shit. Leopard, whatever. It's pretty cool. But no, visiting South Africa does not directly equal going on a safari. We just happened to go on a safari whilst we're in South Africa. All right, Ben Ramsey, you jerk. So on that note, we've lost Ben, and it's getting towards the hour, so we should probably wrap things up. Was there any shout outs you wanted to do before we wrap things up? We'll put the link to Istanbul PHP, the meetup, and the and PHP Conf with a K, because it's cool.
Okay.
We'll put the links up in the show notes. But anything else you want to throw in before we call it a day?
I'm done. Thank you for your time.
It's okay. Thank you for struggling through with my terrible English. I can barely speak this language. It's terrible.
No, I have terrible English.
We're both terrible. It's fine. Cool. Thank you for coming on the show, man. And it's good to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.